traditional responses to supply chain might include a lot of debate, a lot of discussion, a lot of monitoring. But if that supply chain is sped up, then the response has to speed up. I think how you do that is to make sure that you have a new type of conversation with your management, with the board, with those responsible for the continuity of the organisation, a much more understanding of the things that are immediate in the way they might impact you, things that might have a longer term, longer tail and a sort of attritional sort of risk to the organisation. If you're able to label those things a bit more clearly, then I think if something happens along this new, more technologically enabled supply chain, then the response becomes more manageable and hopefully a successful one in the event of any sort of issues. In the environment I work in, it's about trying to reintroduce or refresh what type of services you can offer. And as a result of that, you're having to bring in a whole different part of pan-organisation activities. If you're doing that strategically, if you're doing that operationally, if you're doing that tactically, then risk and the risk of interconnectivity aligns to that pretty much wholesale. And if organisations don't think about the connections, then risk becomes an outlier and perhaps relies just traditionally on being, the business continuity sort of model. I think the way in which the organisations need to look at this is not to throw out the really good stuff that already exists in the way that it controls and manages its risks. It's much more a way of saying that there's a new language, there's a new expectation on us, whatever that might be around changing technology, changing cyber or data exposures, but to draw on those really good, strong, tried and tested world, but bring it into the modern requirements of an organisation. And I think if organisations can do that, then risk management carries on being a very important part to the C-suite top table. It aligns to pan-organisation activities. And most importantly, it's drawing on the expertise that organisations have been able to prove generation after generation, year after year, on things like financial crime, around disaster recovery, crisis management, technology management, and all those other sort of components that a few years ago would have been the bedrock of a tried and tested risk strategy.